A millionaire finds some children living under a bridge. What he does next become the talk of the town. Billionaire businessman Daniel Crawford thought he had seen everything wealth and power could show him. But one freezing winter night beneath an abandoned bridge in Philadelphia, he discovered 3 homeless children huddled around a tiny fire, sharing their last piece of bread with a stray dog. What he did next became the talk of the entire town. The icy wind howled through the concrete pillars beneath the bridge while snow drifted across the dark streets above. Cars rushed overhead without slowing down, their headlights briefly illuminating the shadows below before disappearing into the night. Hidden beneath those shadows sat 3 children wrapped in old blankets. 14-year-old Maya Thompson carefully tore a small piece from the stale loaf of bread in her hands and handed it to a trembling brown dog curled beside her younger brothers. "Here, Lucky," she whispered softly. "You eat too." 8-year-old Ben stared hungrily at the remaining bread. "Maya, that's all we have left." Maya forced a small smile. "He's hungry too." The dog wagged its tail weakly before eating from her hand. 10-year-old Lucas pulled his thin jacket tighter around himself as cold air swept beneath the bridge again. "When do you think Mom's coming back?" Silence. Maya's face changed instantly, but she quickly hid it. "She will," she said softly. "We just have to stay together until then." But deep inside, Maya no longer believed those words herself. 3 months earlier, their mother had disappeared after leaving for a late-night cleaning shift she desperately needed to pay overdue rent. No calls. No messages. No trace. At first, the children waited in their tiny apartment believing she would return any minute. Then came eviction. Then hunger. Then the streets. The system separated siblings too often, and Maya knew if authorities found them, they would likely be split into different foster homes. So instead of asking for help, she kept her brothers hidden beneath the bridge near the old train yard. Every day became about survival. Protect Ben. Protect Lucas. Keep moving. Keep hoping. Even if hope was fading. Every morning before sunrise, Maya walked nearly 2 miles to a local bakery dumpster behind a shopping plaza. Some days, employees threw out untouched pastries. Other days, there was nothing except garbage bags soaked by rain. When she found food, she always fed her brothers first. Always. Even when her own stomach cramped painfully from hunger. She became mother, sister, protector, and provider all at once. And somehow, despite everything, she remained kind. That was what made her different. Hardship had every reason to make Maya bitter. Instead, it made her fiercely compassionate toward anyone suffering around her. Especially children. Especially animals. Especially people everyone else ignored. Earlier that same afternoon, Maya spotted another homeless man shivering near the subway station. Without hesitation, she removed the only dry scarf she owned and wrapped it around his shoulders. Ben had stared at her in disbelief afterward. "But now you'll be cold." Maya simply shrugged. He looked colder. The little boy never argued after that. Because both brothers secretly viewed Maya as the strongest person in the world. That evening, snow fell harder than usual. Beneath the bridge, Maya tried keeping the tiny fire alive using scraps of cardboard and broken wooden pallets scavenged nearby. Ben coughed violently beside her. The sound terrified her. He'd been getting worse for days. Lucas noticed the fear in her eyes immediately. "Ben's gonna be okay," he whispered. Maya nodded quickly. "Of course he is." But when her brothers finally fell asleep later that night, Maya quietly turned away and cried silently into her sleeve. Because she didn't know how much longer she could protect them. And above them, speeding through the snowy streets in a black luxury SUV, Daniel Crawford sat reviewing financial reports on a glowing tablet screen. At 58 years old, Daniel owned one of the largest construction companies on the East Coast. Luxury hotels. Corporate towers. high-rise condominiums. His company transformed city skylines. Business magazines called him brilliant. Competitors called him ruthless. Employees described him as emotionally distant. And honestly, they weren't wrong. Daniel spent decades building an empire after growing up poor himself in South Philadelphia. His father died when he was young. His mother worked endless hours as a waitress trying to survive. Daniel escaped poverty through relentless ambition. But success changed him. Over time, profits became more important than people. Meetings replaced relationships. Business replaced humanity. He donated millions to charity every year. But never personally involved himself in anyone's suffering. Until one unexpected night changed everything. "Sir." Daniel glanced up as his driver slowed the vehicle near a traffic backup caused by heavy snow ahead. "What is it?" "There's someone under the bridge." Daniel barely looked initially. But then movement caught his eye. 3 children. Tiny figures huddled beneath flickering firelight. One of them kneeling beside a stray dog. Daniel frowned deeply. What the hell? The SUV slowed further. And then Daniel saw something that stopped him cold. The oldest girl carefully handed food to the dog before taking any for herself. His chest tightened unexpectedly. The image hit something buried deep inside him. A memory. When Daniel was 11 years old, his mother once gave their last bowl of soup to an elderly neighbor who hadn't eaten in days. He remembered asking her why. And he remembered her answer perfectly. Kindness matters most when you have the least to give. Daniel hadn't thought about that moment in decades. Now suddenly, it came rushing back all at once. The billionaire stared through the snowy window as Maya wrapped both arms around her sleeping brothers to keep them warm. Something about the scene felt unbearable. "Pull over," Daniel said quietly. The driver looked confused. "Sir." "Pull over." The SUV stopped near the bridge. Daniel stepped out into freezing wind immediately, his expensive coat whipping around him as snow crunched beneath his shoes. Under the bridge, Maya instantly sprang to her feet protectively the second she saw him approaching. Her eyes filled with caution. Years on the street taught her dangerous lessons about strangers. She quickly stepped in front of her brothers. "We're not bothering anybody," she said firmly. Daniel stopped several feet away. Up close, the children looked even worse. Thin. Exhausted. Freezing. Yet somehow still dignified. Daniel noticed the little dog curled against Ben for warmth. Then he noticed something else. Maya's hands were shaking violently from cold, but she still held the blanket tighter around her brothers instead of herself. The businessman swallowed hard. "What are your names?" he asked gently. Maya hesitated. "Why?" "Because trust no longer came easily." Daniel understood that immediately. "My name's Daniel," he said calmly. "I'm not here to hurt you." Maya studied him carefully. Behind the expensive coat and polished appearance, something about his voice felt sincere. Finally, she answered softly. "I'm Maya. That's Lucas and Ben." Ben peeked sleepily from the blankets. "Are you rich?" Daniel blinked in surprise. Lucas looked embarrassed immediately. "Ben." But Daniel unexpectedly laughed quietly. "I guess some people would say that." Ben stared at the luxury SUV nearby with wide eyes. "Whoa." Despite the freezing cold, Daniel smiled faintly for the first time in days. Then his attention shifted back to Maya. "How long have you been out here?" Her silence answered him before words did. "Too long." Snow continued falling heavily around them. Daniel looked at the tiny fire barely surviving against the wind. Then at the children. Then back at the city skyline his company helped build. And for the first time in years, none of his success felt impressive anymore. Because what good were luxury towers if children were freezing beneath bridges nearby? Daniel slowly removed his expensive wool coat and stepped forward carefully. Maya stiffened immediately. But instead of grabbing her or questioning her, Daniel gently wrapped the coat around Ben's tiny shoulders. The little boy's eyes widened instantly. "It's warm." Daniel looked back at Maya. "No child should sleep out here." Something in his voice nearly broke her composure completely. Because after months of being invisible, someone was finally seeing them. And neither of their lives would ever be the same again. Before we continue with this incredible journey, if stories like this touch your heart and you want to see more acts of kindness that restore faith in humanity, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Snow continued falling beneath the bridge as Daniel Crawford stood staring at the three children. For years, he had attended charity galas where wealthy donors applauded themselves for writing checks large enough to make newspaper headlines. He had funded shelters, sponsored holiday drives, and donated millions through his company. But somehow, standing here in the freezing dark beside three terrified children felt more real than any charity event he had ever attended. Ben clutched the oversized wool coat tightly around his tiny body. "It smells expensive," he whispered innocently. Lucas elbowed him immediately. "Ben." But Daniel surprised them again by laughing softly. That might be the first time anyone's ever described it that way. The tension eased slightly. Only slightly. Maya still stood protectively in front of her brothers, watching Daniel carefully. Street survival had taught her something important. Kind people existed. But dangerous people existed too. And sometimes it was hard to tell the difference at first. Daniel noticed her hesitation immediately. "You don't trust me," he said gently. Maya answered honestly. "Should I?" The question hit harder than Daniel expected. Because the truth was, she had every reason not to trust strangers. Daniel slowly crouched down so he wouldn't tower over them. "What happened to your parents?" The moment the words left his mouth, Maya's expression tightened again. She hated that question. Not because she didn't love her mother, but because answering it made everything feel painfully real. "Our dad died when Lucas was little," she said quietly. "Mom disappeared 3 months ago." Daniel frowned deeply. "Disappeared?" Maya nodded. "She left for work and never came home." The businessman's chest tightened. "What about relatives? Grandparents?" "We don't have anyone." Ben suddenly spoke up from beneath the coat. "Maya takes care of us." Daniel looked back at her. And for the first time, he truly understood what he was seeing. This wasn't just a homeless teenager. This was a 14-year-old child carrying responsibilities no child should ever have to carry. Protecting 2 younger brothers. Finding food. Keeping them alive. Completely alone. The freezing wind swept through the bridge again. Ben started coughing violently. Daniel's expression changed instantly. "That cough sounds bad." "He's fine," Maya answered too quickly. But fear flickered across her eyes. Daniel recognized it immediately. He had seen that same terrified look on his own mother's face years ago whenever he got sick and she couldn't afford medicine. The memory hit him harder than expected. Without thinking further, Daniel stood. "You're coming with me." Maya's guard shot back up instantly. "No. It's freezing out here. We're okay." "No, you're not." The sharpness in Daniel's voice surprised even him. Maya grabbed her brothers protectively. "We don't go with strangers." Daniel paused. Then slowly nodded. "That's smart." He took a step back to ease her fear. "What if I take you somewhere public? Somewhere warm? Food first. Then you decide what happens next." Maya hesitated. Her stomach twisted painfully from hunger. Lucas looked exhausted. Ben's coughing was getting worse. But trust still felt dangerous. Daniel glanced toward the little fire struggling against the snow. Then he said quietly, "You've spent months protecting them, haven't you?" Maya said nothing. "You don't have to carry all of this alone anymore." The words nearly cracked something inside her. Because no one had said that to her before. Not once. For months, adults either ignored them or viewed them as problems. But this man, this stranger, was speaking to her like she mattered. Still, fear lingered. "What if someone separates us?" Maya asked softly. Daniel immediately understood. "That's what you're scared of." Her silence confirmed it. Daniel crouched again until he was eye level with her. "I give you my word," he said firmly. "Nobody's separating your family tonight." Something about the certainty in his voice finally reached her. Slowly. Reluctantly. Maya nodded. 20 minutes later, the children sat inside a quiet 24-hour diner while snowstorm winds rattled the windows outside. Everything overwhelmed them. The warmth. The lights. The smell of fresh food. Ben stared at the menu like it was treasure. "You can order anything," he whispered. Daniel smiled faintly. "Anything." The little boy looked completely stunned. "Even pancakes?" "Especially pancakes." Ben nearly exploded with excitement. Lucas tried hiding his smile, but failed. Only Maya remained cautious. Even as plates of hot food arrived at the table, she barely touched hers at first. Daniel noticed immediately. "You should eat." She glanced toward her brothers first. Only after making sure they had enough did she slowly pick up her fork. That small act quietly shattered Daniel all over again. Even starving, she still fed everyone else first. The waitress wiped tears discreetly while refilling their drinks. Ben devoured pancakes so fast he started coughing again. "Slow down, buddy," Daniel said gently. "Sorry," Ben mumbled with syrup on his face. "I forgot how good food tastes." The sentence hit the entire table with painful silence. Daniel looked away briefly, emotion tightening in his chest. No child should ever say something like that. As the meal continued, little pieces of the children slowly emerged. Lucas loved drawing comic book heroes. Ben wanted to become a veterinarian because of how much he loved animals. And Maya secretly loved reading. Daniel discovered this accidentally when she noticed a book sticking out of his leather briefcase. "You read Steinbeck?" she asked quietly. Daniel blinked in surprise. "You know Steinbeck?" Maya shrugged softly. "The library near our old apartment used to stay open late." "What's your favorite book?" Her voice softened immediately. "Of Mice and Men." Daniel stared at her for a moment. Most adults he knew wouldn't expect a homeless 14-year-old to answer like that. The realization unsettled him deeply. How many brilliant children were suffering unseen around the city while people rushed past them every day? Ben interrupted suddenly. "Are you famous?" Daniel laughed quietly. "No." Lucas nearly choked. "You're literally on billboards." Daniel rubbed his forehead. "Okay, maybe a little." For the first time all night, Maya smiled fully. And the moment caught Daniel completely off guard. Because beneath all the exhaustion and fear, she still looked like a kid. A child forced to grow up too fast. As midnight approached, Daniel made several private phone calls near the diner counter. One to a trusted family lawyer. Another to a pediatric doctor. And finally, one to his younger sister, Evelyn. Unlike Daniel, Evelyn spent her life working directly with foster children and struggling families. She often criticized her brother for becoming emotionally disconnected from real people. Tonight, for once, Daniel hoped she'd approve of him. "You found children living under a bridge?" Evelyn said in shock over the phone. Yes. And you brought them where? A diner. A long pause followed. Then, Daniel Crawford voluntarily sitting in a diner at midnight talking to homeless children? Should I call a doctor? Despite everything, Daniel laughed softly. I'm serious. Evelyn's voice immediately softened afterward. How bad is it? Daniel looked toward the table. Maya quietly helping Ben cut pancakes. Lucas trying not to fall asleep. The little stray dog curled beneath their booth. And suddenly, Daniel struggled to answer. Worse than people realize. Back at the table, Maya watched Daniel carefully while he spoke on the phone. Something still didn't make sense to her. Wealthy people didn't stop for children under bridges. They definitely didn't stay for hours. When Daniel returned, she finally asked the question bothering her most. Why are you helping us? The businessman paused. For years, he probably would have answered differently. Maybe something polished. Professional. Safe. But tonight felt different. So he answered honestly. Because I spent too many years pretending not to see people who needed help. Maya looked down quietly. Daniel continued softly. My mother used to tell me something when I was young. He smiled faintly at the memory. She said the true measure of a person is how they treat people who can do nothing for them in return. Silence settled over the booth. Then Maya asked something unexpected. Do you think people can forget how to be good? The question stunned him. Daniel looked at the exhausted 14-year-old girl carrying responsibilities bigger than most adults could handle. And realized she was asking something far deeper than her age. Yes, he admitted quietly. Then he looked directly at her. But I also think people can remember. For several seconds, Maya couldn't speak. Because deep down, that was exactly what she needed to hear. Eventually Daniel stood. I booked rooms at a hotel nearby. Maya stiffened immediately again. We can't stay somewhere expensive. You can tonight. We don't want charity. Daniel nodded slowly. I understand. Then he reached into his wallet and carefully placed a business card on the table. What I'm offering isn't charity. Maya glanced down at the card. Crawford Urban Development Group. Her eyes widened slightly. Even she recognized the name. Daniel continued gently. It's a safe place to sleep. A doctor for Ben. And time to figure out what comes next. Maya stared at the card silently. Trust still scared her. But for the first time in months, hope scared her more. Because hope meant risking disappointment again. Daniel seemed to sense that conflict instantly. You don't have to decide your entire future tonight, he said softly. Just let someone help you survive this storm first. Outside, snow continued covering the city. But inside that tiny diner booth, 3 children slowly began stepping out of the cold darkness they thought would swallow them forever. And Daniel Crawford had no idea that helping them would soon transform his own life far more than theirs. The hotel room didn't feel real. Ben spent nearly 10 minutes jumping carefully on the mattress because he couldn't believe beds could actually feel that soft. Lucas stood under the shower longer than necessary, letting hot water run over his face while steam filled the bathroom. He later admitted it was the first truly warm shower he'd had in months. And Maya. Maya barely slept at all. She sat awake near the window most of the night watching snow fall across downtown Philadelphia while her brothers finally rested peacefully behind her. Part of her wanted to believe everything was changing. Another part whispered that good things never lasted long. At sunrise, she quietly checked on Ben first. The little boy slept curled beneath thick blankets, no longer shivering for the first time in weeks. That alone nearly made her cry. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Maya immediately stiffened. Survival instincts never disappeared overnight. She approached the door cautiously and peeked through the opening. Daniel stood outside holding a paper bag and 3 hot chocolate cups. "You don't have to look at me like I'm a serial killer," he said gently. Maya actually smiled a little before unlocking the door. The smell of breakfast instantly filled the room. Ben woke up almost immediately. "Is that bacon?" Daniel laughed softly. "That's definitely bacon." Within minutes, the room transformed completely. Ben sat cross-legged on the bed eating pancakes. Lucas flipped through television channels in amazement. And for the first time since their mother disappeared, the children looked something close to normal. Not homeless. Not terrified. Just kids. Daniel quietly watched them while sipping coffee near the window. Something inside him felt strangely unfamiliar. Peace. His entire adult life revolved around deadlines, investments, negotiations, and pressure. Even during expensive vacations, his mind stayed trapped inside work. But here, watching 3 children laugh over pancakes somehow felt more meaningful than billion-dollar contracts ever had. Ben suddenly looked at him seriously. "Are rich people always this nice?" Daniel nearly choked on his coffee. "Not even close," Maya answered before he could. That made everyone laugh. Even Daniel. Later that afternoon, Evelyn Crawford arrived. Unlike her brother, Evelyn carried warmth naturally. She wore simple clothes, minimal makeup, and spoke with the calm confidence of someone who dedicated her life to helping others. The second she entered the hotel room, Ben whispered loudly to Lucas. "She looks like someone who gives hugs." Evelyn overheard him instantly. "That's because I do." Before Ben could react, she wrapped him in a warm embrace that made the little boy freeze in surprise. Then slowly hug her back. Evelyn's eyes watered immediately. Daniel noticed. So did Maya. After speaking privately with the children, Evelyn pulled Daniel aside near the hallway. "They're traumatized," she said quietly. "Especially Maya." Daniel nodded. "She's carrying everything. She's terrified someone will separate them." Daniel looked toward the room where Maya sat helping Lucas with a puzzle. "Can that happen?" Evelyn hesitated too long before answering. "Yes." Daniel's expression hardened instantly. "No. Daniel." "No," he repeated firmly. "Those kids survived together. I'm not letting the system destroy that." Evelyn studied her brother carefully. This wasn't the same emotionally detached businessman she'd argued with for years. Something inside him had genuinely changed. Over the next several weeks, Daniel became deeply involved in the children's lives. More than anyone expected. Every morning, he personally checked on Ben's medical treatment after doctors diagnosed severe pneumonia developing from prolonged exposure to freezing temperatures. Every afternoon, he visited the temporary family housing center Evelyn arranged. And every evening, he spent hours talking with Maya and Lucas. Slowly, trust began forming. One night, Daniel arrived carrying sketchbooks and colored pencils after learning Lucas loved drawing superheroes. The boy's face lit up instantly. "For me?" Daniel nodded. Lucas hugged the sketchbook tightly against his chest like treasure. "No one's ever bought me art stuff before." Daniel smiled softly. "Well, I expect great things from the creator of Captain Thunder Ninja." Lucas gasped dramatically. "You remembered his name." Maya laughed quietly watching them. That sound stopped Daniel for a moment. Because it was becoming more frequent now. Her laughter. Her smile. Tiny signs that the frightened survival mode inside her was finally beginning to loosen. But healing wasn't simple. Some nights Maya still woke from nightmares convinced social workers were taking her brothers away. Sometimes she secretly hid food inside her backpack even though meals were now regular. And anytime someone mentioned foster care, panic instantly crossed her face. Daniel noticed all of it. One evening, he found her sitting alone outside the housing center staring at traffic beneath dim streetlights. "You okay?" Maya shrugged. "Just thinking. Dangerous hobby." That earned a small smile. Daniel sat beside her quietly. After several moments, Maya finally spoke. "What if this disappears?" Daniel looked at her carefully. "What do you mean?" "What if everyone changes their mind someday?" she asked softly. "People always leave eventually." The sentence hit him hard. Not because she sounded dramatic. Because she sounded experienced. Daniel leaned back slowly. "When I was younger," he admitted quietly, "I thought money could protect me from everything." Maya glanced toward him. "But it doesn't?" Daniel shook his head faintly. "No. Sometimes it just isolates you differently." She studied him curiously. "You seem lonely." That startled him. Most adults feared Daniel Crawford too much to speak honestly around him. But Maya simply observed people carefully because survival depended on it. Daniel surprised himself by answering truthfully. "I think I forgot how to connect with people a long time ago." Maya looked down thoughtfully. "Maybe that's why you stopped under the bridge." The words lingered heavily between them. Because deep down, Daniel knew she was right. Meanwhile, news of Daniel's involvement with the homeless children slowly spread across the city. At first, local media praised him. Billionaire steps in to help abandoned siblings. Construction mogul personally assists homeless children. But not everyone viewed the situation positively. Inside Crawford Urban Development, several executives grew increasingly uncomfortable. Especially Victor Lang, Daniel's longtime business partner. Victor cared about profits, public image, and shareholder confidence above everything else. During a tense board meeting, Victor finally addressed the issue directly. "You're getting emotionally distracted." Daniel barely looked up from documents. "I'm handling it." Victor sighed impatiently. "You're personally visiting shelters now. Investors are asking questions. And this company isn't a charity organization." Daniel's expression cooled instantly. "No," he said quietly. "It's a company built in a city where children sleep under bridges." The room fell silent. Victor lowered his voice. "You're risking your reputation over 3 homeless kids." Daniel slowly looked up. "They have names." Victor rubbed his forehead. "You know what I mean." "No," Daniel answered sharply. "Actually, I don't." Tension thickened instantly. Victor leaned forward. "You built this empire through discipline. Logic. Detachment. Now suddenly you're acting emotionally because some sad story got under your skin." That sentence changed something. Daniel stood slowly from the table. For years, he probably would have ignored comments like that. But not anymore. "You know what's interesting?" Daniel said calmly. "I spent decades believing success meant becoming untouchable." He looked around the room. But those children beneath that bridge showed more humanity sharing bread with a stray dog than most people in this building show all year. No one spoke. Victor shook his head. "This is exactly what I mean." Daniel gathered his papers. "No. This is exactly what you fail to understand." Then he walked out. But the real obstacle arrived days later. One rainy afternoon, social services officials appeared unexpectedly at the housing center requesting immediate evaluation of the children's placement. Maya panicked instantly. "They're separating us," she whispered fearfully. Ben started crying. Lucas grabbed Maya's hand tightly. The caseworker tried calming them gently. "We're only reviewing long-term arrangements." But Maya had heard enough horror stories already. Children separated across different homes. Siblings lost forever inside the system. The fear consumed her immediately. That night, Daniel arrived to find the children devastated. Ben refused to unpack his backpack. Lucas quietly cried near the window. And Maya stood emotionally shutting down all over again. Daniel's chest tightened. What happened? Maya laughed bitterly. I told you good things don't last. Daniel looked toward Evelyn, who explained quietly. The state believes placing them separately might improve adoption chances. Silence. Then Daniel asked one question. Can I fight it? Evelyn looked surprised. You'd really take this on? Daniel's jaw tightened firmly. Those kids survived hell protecting each other. His voice hardened. Nobody's tearing that family apart. For the first time in years, Daniel Crawford stopped caring about appearances completely. All he cared about now was protecting the children who had unknowingly taught him how to feel human again. The courtroom felt far too cold for children. Maya sat stiffly beside her brothers, gripping both their hands tightly while lawyers, social workers, and officials quietly discussed their future like it was paperwork. Ben leaned against her shoulder nervously. Lucas kept staring at the floor. And across the room, Daniel Crawford stood near the window speaking firmly with attorneys. 3 months earlier, he probably would have delegated something like this to assistants without a second thought. Now it felt personal. Because it was personal. The state argued that separating the children into different foster homes would increase their chances of permanent placement. But Daniel couldn't stop thinking about the bridge. The freezing nights. The way Maya wrapped her brothers inside her own blanket while she shivered alone. Those children survived because they stayed together. Breaking them apart now felt cruel. A judge finally entered the courtroom, and everyone stood. Maya's heart pounded so hard she thought she might collapse. The hearing began quietly. Caseworkers discussed overcrowded shelters, housing instability, legal complications surrounding missing parents. Then one official made a comment that visibly hurt Maya. The oldest sibling has become emotionally over-attached to the caretaker role. Maya lowered her eyes instantly. Like loving her brothers too much was somehow wrong. Before she could shrink further into silence, Daniel stood. With respect, he said calmly, that 14-year-old child kept 2 boys alive beneath a bridge during winter. The courtroom went still. Daniel continued firmly. She fed them before herself. Protected them. Comforted them. If that's being over-attached, then perhaps we need more people like her. Maya's eyes filled immediately. No adult had ever defended her like that before. The judge listened carefully as Daniel's legal team presented a different proposal. Instead of separating the siblings, Daniel wanted to establish permanent guardianship support through a family preservation program Evelyn helped organize. Housing, education, therapy, medical care. Everything together. The state hesitated initially. But then something unexpected happened. Community members started speaking up. Rosie, the diner owner who met the children during their first night off the streets, appeared voluntarily to testify. So many people walked past those babies every day, she said emotionally. But that little girl never stopped fighting for her brothers. Ben's school counselor testified next. Then doctors. Then shelter workers. Even local neighbors from the bridge area came forward describing how Maya shared food with others despite having almost nothing herself. One older man quietly told the court. She kept kindness alive down there when most adults would have given up. By the end of the hearing, the atmosphere had completely shifted. Because this wasn't just about homeless children anymore. It became about whether compassion still mattered in society. Finally, after hours of testimony, the judge removed her glasses and looked directly at Maya. "Young lady," she said gently, "you've shown extraordinary strength." Maya tried not to cry. The judge continued. "This court believes keeping your family together is in the best interest of everyone involved." Ben gasped loudly. Lucas grabbed Maya's arm instantly. And for one suspended moment, none of them moved. Then Ben burst into tears. "Maya. We get to stay together." The little boy threw his arms around both siblings while Maya finally broke down crying openly for the first time in months. Daniel quietly turned away, emotional himself. Evelyn noticed immediately. "You okay?" Daniel smiled faintly through wet eyes. "No," he admitted softly. "I think I'm finally becoming okay." Outside the courthouse, reporters crowded around Daniel asking why he became so personally involved. Cameras flashed constantly. Microphones stretched toward him. One reporter asked the question everyone wanted answered. "What made you care so deeply about these children?" Daniel looked toward Maya helping Ben button his oversized coat nearby. Then answered honestly. "Because no child should have to prove they deserve compassion before receiving it." The quote spread across national news by evening. And suddenly, the entire city started paying attention. Donations poured into shelters. Volunteers signed up across local outreach programs. Families offered support. Teachers, doctors, and small business owners reached out wanting to help vulnerable children before they ever ended up beneath bridges. One act of kindness created another. Then another. Then hundreds more. But the biggest transformation happened within the children themselves. Especially Maya. For the first time in years, survival stopped being her full-time job. She returned to school. Started therapy. Made friends. Slowly, the constant fear in her eyes began fading. One afternoon, Daniel visited their new townhouse and found Maya sitting at the kitchen table helping Ben with homework while Lucas sketched superheroes nearby. The scene stopped him in his tracks. It looked so ordinary. And somehow, that made it beautiful. Maya looked up and smiled. "You're staring again." Daniel laughed softly. "Sorry." Ben ran over excitedly. "Guess what? I got an A in science." Daniel looked appropriately shocked. "No way." "Yes way." Lucas held up a drawing proudly. "And Captain Thunder Ninja got a sidekick now." Daniel examined it carefully. "What's his name?" Lucas grinned. "Bridge Boy." That name hit everyone emotionally for a second. Because beneath the humor lived memory. Of where they came from. Of what they survived. Daniel sat beside Maya at the table afterward while the boys played nearby. "You've changed," he said quietly. Maya looked thoughtful. "I feel different." "How?" She glanced toward her brothers. For the first time in a long time, her voice softened. "I'm not scared every second." Daniel nodded slowly. Then Maya surprised him. "You changed too." He raised an eyebrow. "Oh really? You smile now." Daniel blinked. Because she was right. Months earlier, people described him as intimidating. Cold. Unreadable. Now employees regularly saw him visiting shelters, funding youth housing programs, and mentoring struggling students personally. Victor Lang nearly lost his mind over it. But Daniel no longer cared. For the first time in decades, his life had meaning beyond profit. Nearly a year later, Crawford Urban Development completed its most important project ever. Not a luxury hotel. Not a corporate tower. But a massive transitional housing and education center for vulnerable families and homeless youth. And Daniel named it after the person who inspired everything. The Maya Thompson Family Center. On opening day, hundreds gathered for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Local leaders. Teachers. Former shelter workers. Families. Journalists. And standing proudly near the front entrance stood Maya herself. Now 15. Confident. Healthy. Strong. No longer hiding beneath bridges. Daniel stepped beside her before the ceremony started. You nervous? A little. You'll do great. Maya smiled softly. You know, this place is going to save people. Daniel looked around the beautiful center. Classrooms. Warm apartments. Medical clinics. Playgrounds. Spaces designed not just for survival, but healing. Then he looked back at Maya. You already saved people, he said quietly. Her eyes watered instantly. During the ceremony, reporters asked Maya what she learned through everything she experienced. She paused thoughtfully before answering. That kindness isn't about having money, she said softly. Sometimes the people with the least still give the most. The crowd erupted into applause. But the most emotional moment came later that evening. After the celebration ended, Maya asked Daniel to stop the car near the old bridge. The same bridge where everything began. Snow lightly covered the streets again. For several seconds, none of them spoke. Ben looked out the window quietly. It feels smaller now. Lucas nodded. Way smaller. Maya stepped out slowly and walked beneath the bridge one final time. The concrete pillars remained cold and gray. But something inside her had changed completely. She wasn't trapped there anymore. As she stood silently remembering those painful nights, movement caught her attention nearby. A young boy sat alone against the wall hugging a stray cat for warmth. Instantly, Maya recognized the fear in his eyes. The hunger. The loneliness. Without hesitation, she removed her scarf and approached him gently. Hey, she said softly. Are you cold? The boy looked startled. Maya knelt beside him carefully. You hungry? Slowly. The frightened child nodded. Maya smiled warmly. Come on. I know somewhere safe. From the car, Daniel watched quietly while emotion filled his chest. Full circle. The little girl who once protected her brothers beneath that bridge was now becoming hope for someone else. And in that moment, Daniel realized something powerful. Kindness never truly ends. It echoes. From one person to another. Across lives. Across generations. Changing the world one human heart at a time. This story shows how one act of kindness can change everything. What's one way you could make a difference in someone's life today? Challenge yourself and share your commitment in the comments.